We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America.
The move, which took effect on June 4, 2025, is the highest tariff level since World War II, the stated goal to protect U.S. industry. But the fallout from this drastic policy is already being felt, and the real shock isn't just from China or Russia, it's from Canada, America's closest neighbor and key trade partner. Canada has been a top supplier of steel and aluminum to the U.S. In fact, in 2024, over half of America's aluminum and a significant portion of its steel came from Canada. With tariffs now at 50%, prices for goods like canned food, new homes, cars, and appliances are set to spike. Food producers warn of price hikes on canned goods. Home builders expect construction costs to rise by up to $11,000, and industries from automakers to solar companies are bracing for impact. The question remains, what is America actually protecting, and at what cost? The move that changed everything. On June 3, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order to enhance steel and aluminum tariffs under Section 232, aiming to rejuvenate American heavy industries. The new tariffs, 50% on all imports except from the UK, came into effect the next day. The UK received a temporary exemption pending a broader trade deal, but Canada, Mexico, and the EU were immediately impacted. Washington defended the move, citing national security concerns over foreign steel and aluminum threatening U.S. markets. However, Canada, as the largest supplier of these materials, was hit hardest. In 2024, over 50% of U.S. aluminum imports and nearly 60% of primary aluminum came from Canada. The immediate market reaction was significant. U.S. steel and aluminum prices spiked, while foreign steelmakers' stocks dropped. Global impact, a chain reaction. The tariff increase is not just about steelworkers, it's shaking up global markets. In October 2025, the National Association of Home Builders reported that material costs had risen 6.3%, adding over $10,000 to the price of an average new home. This is a blow to the middle class, where home affordability is already a challenge. Meanwhile, retailers are warning that consumers will feel the sting from higher prices on a wide range of products, from canned goods to cars and appliances. The auto and aerospace industries are particularly vulnerable as they rely heavily on imported materials. U.S. steel and aluminum suppliers have warned that the cost of inputs will double overnight, forcing manufacturers to either absorb the extra cost or pass it on to buyers. This isn't just political theater, this is trade war territory. The U.S. is risking a breakdown in relations with some of its oldest allies. Canada, Mexico, and the EU are not sitting idly by. Canada has already vowed to retaliate, and Mexico is preparing its countermeasures. The EU, while keeping quiet, has raised alarms over the potential for a scrap crisis as aluminum exporters rush to fill the gap. Ontario's response. Ontario Premier Doug Ford wasted no time responding to the tariffs. On June 4, 2025, just hours after the tariffs were imposed, Ford made it clear that Canada would not be steamrolled by the U.S. He hinted that Canada might retaliate by targeting U.S. electricity exports. Ontario's move was a bold statement. Canada has already imposed retaliatory tariffs worth $29.8 billion Canadian dollars on U.S. steel, aluminum, and other goods. Canada's unions, including Unifor and United Steelworkers, are demanding immediate countermeasures to protect jobs and shield industries from the effects of these new tariffs. Canada's response, the Made in Canada strategy. On June 6, 2025, Canada's Foreign Minister Melanie Joly unveiled the Made in Canada strategy. The plan includes moving all federal infrastructure and defense contracts to use domestic steel and aluminum. The move is a clear show of defiance against the U.S. tariffs. We won't let unfair trade practices hold back Canada's steel industry. Not now, not ever, Joly declared. This was more than just rhetoric. It was a call to action, signaling that Canada would not sit idly by while its industries were undercut by U.S. protectionist policies. Ottawa is taking a hard stand, signaling that it's ready for a long-term confrontation with Washington if necessary. The ripple effect on U.S. industries. Back in the U.S., the effects of the tariff hike are being felt across various industries. Food manufacturers, especially those relying on metal packaging, are seeing prices spike. According to the Can Manufacturers Institute, CMI, the cost of canned goods is set to increase, and these higher costs will be passed down the supply chain to consumers. The craft beer industry, too, is facing a major blow. Breweries that rely on aluminum cans for packaging are seeing steep increases in costs. Arizona and Massachusetts breweries have already started shifting packaging formats, with some warning that operating costs are nearing unsustainable levels. The auto industry is also reeling. The U.S. auto manufacturers, including Ford and GM, saw their stock prices drop by 3 to 4% immediately after the tariff announcement. About 30 to 40% of auto components depend on imported steel and aluminum. These materials are now subject to a 50% tariff, which either increases production costs or forces manufacturers to raise prices, putting more financial pressure on U.S. consumers. A structural squeeze on the U.S. economy. The rising costs are not confined to a single sector. From groceries to cars to homes, the economic strain is broad and deep. Prices for materials like aluminum have already jumped 190% since Trump took office, putting an immediate burden on industries and consumers alike. This pressure is spreading through supply chains, causing delays, cost hikes, and uncertainty. If Mexico, Canada, and the EU continue to retaliate, U.S. manufacturers may find themselves cut off from critical supply chains, driving up production costs and damaging competitiveness.
If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way.